Alright, hello students. Today we are going to talk about the new chapter called percent increase and decrease. So far we've talked about proportions, and we do have to talk about percentages as well. And the whole idea is that we are talking about comparisons. So one thing that I would like you to write down to start off our notes is let's point out that this is a comparison. All right, so if we are comparing, what are we comparing to? And so I think the easy way to look at this is there is going to be an original amount. So there is and this amount is going to always be 100%. Okay, so whatever we're going to compare this to, this has to be the 100%. Now remember that 100% doesn't mean perfect. All it means is this is the number that we currently have. So for example, last year, let's say I bought like 5 shoes, then 5 is the 100%. So that's what it would be. Now, there also has to be a new amount. Let's put a new, let me write that. Or final amount. Now the reason why I'm writing both of these is ultimately you have to be able to know that there's a difference here, right? All right, now let me explain this real quick. So there is a new final amount. Now the newer final amount is generally going to be 100% plus or minus a new percent. Now that new amount is going to be kind of the new total, but sometimes we want to know the difference. So the difference or percent change, the percent change is the difference. And we're going to draw an arrow here to show that it's going to be that. That is the percent change that we're going to look at. So let's do an example here. Let's say that let's have original, and let's have final. So final means like this here. And let's just say that we are dealing with simple percentages here, so I'm not going to go with anything too big, but let's just say there's a big bar and a smaller bar. Now this bar, let's say, is 100%, and let's say that was the original percentage, and by the end, this is the next percent, which is 85. That's the final. So now, these two numbers you already have, and sometimes we will be looking for the percent change. So the percent change is this gap, this number that's missing right here. And this is, if you do the calculations, you know that this is 15%. So let's write that 15% is the percent change. Now, as you go into the notes or into the activities that you're going to work on here, there are just a few things that you'll need to keep in mind. And so I'm going to give you a couple of formulas that you can use to hopefully help us. Okay, so let's just write helpful formulas. And let's say this. So sometimes you want to find out what the final new percent is, right? So finding new or updated Now, what you are going to have is, or the way that you're going to calculate this is you're going to do it by division. So you're going to take the new or final number, or let's say updated or final number. And this is assuming we're not really dealing with percents. Because if you have a percentage, then you're pretty much done. You don't have to do calculations. And then you take the original number. Now, keep in mind, though, that this is going to just lead you to the new or updated or final percent. Now, what do I mean by this? Remember that this is not the percent change. So I'm going to put in brackets here and write this big. This is, oopsies, is not percent change. So what is the percent change? Well, remember that the original percent is going to be 100%. Now the trick here, we could use integers, is finding out the percent change is going to be equal to the new updated or final percent. And remember, this is percent now. This is the one you just found, right? So this will be like a second step if you need to cover this, assuming they don't give you the percents, minus the original, or simply put, the original is always going to be 100%. Now, what I like about this formula, because sometimes people say, well, you know, couldn't you do 100% minus that? What if the number is smaller than 100? Well, the nice thing is you actually have this kind of, let's see, how do we put it? It's kind of a set amount that we'll always have. Let me just show you. So let's do one. We're going to do two examples, okay? So let's say that you have, in 1 year, you have 10, let's say you have 10 fruits. And then the next year, you have 11 fruits. You want to see the percent change. How much percent did it change total? So remember that the way that you find out the new percent is you take 11 fruits divided by 10 fruits. Now, if you, you'll need to remember a little bit of how you do percentages here, but you know that 11 over 10 is going to be 1.1, and you always multiply everything by 100% in order to turn it into a percent. So you should be left with 110%. Okay, that should be the new percent. Now, that's a new one. So what's the percent change? Well, the percent change is going to be 110% minus 10%, or oopsies, 100%. And if you do that, you're going to see that you're going to be left with 10%. Now, you see how it's a positive number? So you know that it's because it's positive. So positive, it means it increased, right? So it went up by 10%. But let's say we could use another example here. Let's say you have 10 fruits, and in the next year, you're left with 9 fruits. All right, now quickly go ahead and do the math. Try to see if you can find the percentage. You could pause here and you could resume, and I'll do the response. All right, so now time for the response. So remember that you're taking the new amount, okay? Remember, don't go with bigger versus smaller. We're not looking at that. We're looking at the new amount. So 9 over the original amount, which is 10. Now you know that you're left with 0.9. If you want to times it by 100% to find out the percent, then you are going to get 90%. Now remember, you're not going up or down by 90%. 90% is a new number. So you still want to know how much you went up and down by. So in this case, we're going to do the same type of math. The new number, so remember, not bigger or smaller, the new number. Don't be afraid of integers here. They're going to be your friend. Minus 100%. All right, I'm just putting into that formula there. And you're going to see that it's going to be minus 10%. Now, let's point out that because it's negative, therefore, it decreases. Okay? So that's kind of the gist of how these percentages would work. Now, sometimes keep in mind that they might give you the percent change. So if they give you the percent change, you're going to have to kind of flip through this, like go backwards, to find out the new or the updated percent. All right, to test out what you know here, I want you to do the try, and I want you to do the try for page 336 to 337. It should, yeah, that should give you a kind of a starting point, and then we'll see what else you'll need to do when we get back to class.